Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackson. Today, for my ethics topic, I will be presenting ethics and technical challenges of missiles and bombs. I know this seems like a pretty easy topic to cover in ethics, but being an Air Force ROTC cadet and having this potentially impact my future, I really wanted to hit on it. I wanted to be looking ahead, be ready for that kind of moment to come. So if I'm already thinking about it now, maybe having that decision made in the future will be just a little bit easier. And as we found out, this screen is a little hard to see on, so I'll be kind of reading out the slides just a little for the video, but again, let's get into it. So in the overview, what we'll be going over is what is an ethical dilemma, missiles, bombs. I chose two specific ones just to get a little bit more in depth on how those really affect the decisions made and be able to look a little bit deeper into just how specifically different things affect how you think ethically or morally in that kind of situation. Then we have the background on the issue, positives and negatives of utilizing this kind of weaponry, this ordinance, and then the conclusion. So what is an ethical dilemma? This is directly from a dictionary. It says a situation in which two moral principles conflict with one another. So the basis is, do you think this is right or wrong? Does using a missile or bomb, is it right or wrong? Is there something we can do about it? Is there something different we can do? That is the premise of my topic. So what are missiles and bombs? So on the left here, we have an AIM-9 Sidewinder. This is a short-range air-to-air missile fired off of a fighter jet at some other jet in the air. It follows a heat signature until it reaches that target or it misses. On the right here, we have a B-2 dropping a GBU-57 MOP or Massive Ordnance Penetrator. It is a bunker buster. It is designed to impact the ground, send off a second wave of explosions to get even deeper, to take out some kind of underground facility, bunker, something of that nature. All right, so the background on the topic, what are these kind of ordnance, weaponry, what is it used for? Well, the big three I've come up with is war. Obviously, we've been through 2 world wars and many smaller wars in between, as well as looking at other countries going through wars, and this kind of technology getting more around in smaller countries or countries that aren't as related to us. Next, we have terrorism and counterterrorism, which is more smaller countries or organizations trying to find ways to create conflict, gain money, that kind of thing. And then finally, preventative strike, which we'll go over all 3 of these in more detail. And finally, we have the national security strategy of the United States says that we have to use this kind of ordinance in a lawful, necessary, and proportionate manner. So just right off the bat, I want to state that for the US specifically and most NATO countries, ethics is the backbone of what we're doing. We're following the law, we're following what's necessary, and we're responding in a proportionate manner to what has been thrown at us. So, negatives of using the missiles and bombs. So, if a missile misses a target, it could potentially hit the ground, some kind of major building, civilian building. Obviously, that's not what we're aiming to do as being part of the U.S., as being part of Air Force ROTC. We understand that that is the last thing we want to happen. Our mission is to go out, take out the enemy, and nothing more. Eliminate the threat to protect the safety of the citizens that reside here at home. Now, that goes into our next topic, non-military loss of life. So, again, the U.S. and its allies follow strict guidelines, rules during the wartime, and again, there's a chance that when a bomb goes through a enemy facility or bunker, that there's a civilian there, but does that outweigh the positive of potentially ending the war, ending some kind of military facility that's building more weapons of destruction against us? Again, that's the moral, how you feel, what outweighs the other. So positives, safety during wartime. If we're in a war, using this technology will help us to negate the threat. If there's any threat that's coming to potentially harm U.S. citizens, then we are going to do whatever it is necessary to prevent U.S. citizens from being hurt. Again, terrorism and counterterrorism, this follows mostly the same principle. If someone is threatening the United States, their citizens, something along the lines of 9/11, we will do whatever it takes to prevent that organization from completing their mission. So using this ordinance, this weaponry, that allows us to do this. And then we have this kind of gray area, which is preventative strikes. And we've had an issue recently with Donald Trump, President Trump, sending out B-2 Spirit bombers to bomb Iranian nuclear facilities. So the thought was that they, against NATO, against what they were told as a country, they could not have nuclear weapons. They did not have nuclear weapons before. Only countries that had nuclear weapons before the treaties were signed could keep nuclear weapons. Any other country could not develop them. So the thought was they were building underground facilities to make nuclear weapons, and that was against NATO. And Trump decided that he would preventatively bomb their facility using GBU-57s, bunker busters, to take out the facility. And that has become an ethical and moral debate. Does he have that power? Is that ethically the right way to go about it? Should there have been more negotiation? Who knows? And again, if you read my paper, it says, in my eyes, as far as this discussion goes, we're going to call U.S. law ethical, but Congress and the president using authoritative power to call a strike or something will be a gray area up for discussion. I know laws allow the president to do that kind of thing, or Congress to make that kind of authoritative decision, but the law does not directly state exactly what the response should be. So ethical or moral, that's more of a gray area. But again, during wartime or during terrorism, using this ordinance should hopefully keep more people safe than it harms. And again, with the negatives, back on this slide, we do not want to cause destruction of environment emissions or non-military life, but that's the risk we take with using this. Is it ethical Again, that is the debate. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Sorry, what was that? Are there alternatives? That's kind of where it gets difficult. So, obviously, if there was an alternative, the best alternative would be not to have to use them in the first place. But with a kind of arms race, kind of other militaries gaining this technology, if they're going to be willing to use it against us and we don't use it, then we're in a losing battle. So I won't say it's a necessity. Obviously, trying to create peace through some kind of diplomatic way would be the best answer. But if we are threatened, we have to use what we have available to us, what we've developed, and this would be our response to a similar threat. Again, we want to go back to that other slide where we talked about responding proportionally. We're not going to go from small arms fire to dropping bombs on people. It would have to be a proportionate response. And I did want to focus more on modern times for this discussion. I know the bombings of Japan are a very big ethical debate. That was not part of my discussion. I did not want to include that. I wanted to stay modern, like the topic said, so that's why I didn't include that in this. Any more questions? All right, thank you.